Sacredspace on West Limerick 102.
So welcome back again to part 3 of Sacredspace in West Limerick 102. My name is John Keeley, joined in studio here actually by Brother MalachyThomson, who's a Cistercian monk from Roscrea, and also Shane. Shane, you got a few things you'd like to ask Brother at this particular stage?
Yeah, I suppose this morning what we wanted to do, we wanted to explore with Brother Malachy the Cistercian life, and I suppose what it is to be a Cistercian monk in Ireland today. So I suppose, Brother Malachy, Roscrea is, I suppose, Mount St. Joseph is known, I suppose, for the school in Roscrea. You have a boarding school, but I suppose it's home to a community of Cistercian monks. And I suppose one of the questions people would say, well, who and what are the Cistercians?
Well, good morning, Shane. It's great to be here, as I said. Who are the Cistercians? It's a huge question, and really we could probably devote a whole programme to it. So I'll try give you a very shortened down snapshot of who we are. We're actually a reform movement of the Benedictine order. So we're actually, if you like, a breakaway movement of the Benedictine order. So in the year 1098, a group of monks led by Abbot Robert of Malachy, a monastery in France, left the Benedictine order to form a new community. And really their aim was to live the life more authentically, with a greater simplicity than what they felt the life was being lived in the monastery where they were at the time. So really we don't have one founder, we have three founders. So Robert, Albrecht and Stephen would be the three men associated with the forming of the Cistercian order, and we were formed in 1098 in France. But Saint Malachy of Armagh would be the man, and that's why I chose the name Malachy, would be the man responsible for bringing the Cistercians to Ireland. He was on his way to Rome in 1139 when he stopped off at Clairvaux. He was on his way to visit Pope Innocent, and he was responsible for the setting up of Mellifont Abbey in 1142. So that was the first Cistercian abbey in Ireland. And Mount St. Joseph Abbey itself was founded in 1878. So we're a daughter house of Mount Melleray, which was founded in 1832. So we're a daughter house of Mount Melleray. So we owe a huge debt to Count Arthur Moore, who actually purchased the lands. The land was bought from a English clergyman, Richard Heaton, because the local townland where we're based is actually called Mount Heaton. So we have a great debt to Count Arthur Moore, because the monks put up a mortgage of 5,000 and Count Arthur Moore put up the other 10,000 to purchase the land. So we moved to Mount St. Joseph Abbey in 1878. So that's a very snapshot of who we are and where we are.
I suppose one of the questions is, it gives us an idea, I suppose, of the history of the community and where it has come from in terms of its history from France. Mm-hmm. And of course, one of the things about Cistercians, of course, is actually your nickname, if you like, because you're the Cistercians of the Strict Observance. Your nickname is Trappists, or used to be Trappists. Mm-hmm. So, because you were seen as being more authentically living, I suppose, the rule of Saint Benedict.
Yes.
But I suppose the question would be, what is it that a Cistercian monk does? Because if you think about it, right, while we try to not do it, it's when we meet people today, I suppose one of the first questions we ask them is, well, what is it you do? Mm-hmm. What is it that a monk does?
In one word, pray.
Okay.
Mm. I'm not being funny there, but basically, the Cistercian way of life is a life of prayer. It's a life of prayer, work, and worship. But central, we're really, really honoured and privileged in that, our day is structured around our prayer life. So we actually pray the liturgy of the hours, but we fit our work in or around our prayer life. We don't actually have to try fit our prayer life in or around our work. So it's a contemplative life. It's a life where a monk feels he's been called to come away seeking union with God. And it's underpinned by a desire to give oneself totally to God in everything one does. It's a life of witness to the primacy of God in the world, and it's a life of witness to the efficacy of prayer. So, it's ora et labora. We believe that we give glory to God in our work and our prayer. So it's a very balanced life that we live, but central and core to everything we do is giving God glory and witness to God through our prayer life, both community prayer and private prayer.
One of the things that is coming up at the beginning of July is you're having I think it's like a come and see weekend or a vocations weekend.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us what that's involved, what's the idea behind it, and when exactly it's on?
Okay. Well, we schedule 3 weekends a year. And basically, I suppose you could call them, it's a discernment weekend, a vocation weekend, or to sum it up in 2 words, it's a weekend of discernment and discovery. Mm-hmm. It's a weekend, for young men who may be discerning a religious vocation, or, may be feeling drawn to a deeper prayer life, or, feel that, God is calling them in some way, different to how they're living their life at present. So it's an opportunity for men that feel that call to come away and, experience some quiet time and space so that they can listen to the promptings of the Holy Spirit and, maybe discover, that God is calling them to a life of prayer. And it's an opportunity for them to experience the rhythm of the monastic prayer life and, see at first hand the life of a monk. So the weekend actually runs obviously from Friday to Sunday, but it's full in some ways, but it's very structured in that there's talks on Friday evening, Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. There's a tour of the monastery, and as well as that, there's an opportunity to meet individually with monks, and then there's plenty of time given for quiet time and private prayer. And it's a twofold opportunity for them to spend some time in prayer, but also to learn about the monastic way of life.
Sorry, I'm at the start, I didn't actually say, what dates is that actually on, Brother Malachy?
It runs from Friday the 1st of July to Sunday the 3rd of July. So we generally try and encourage people, if they can, to arrive at the monastery anytime between 2 and 5 o'clock. We have what we call evening prayer or vespers at 5:30 on a Friday. So we try to encourage people to come along, preferably between 3 and 5, and that way I meet them in the guest house and we can get them settled into their room. Each person attending the weekend has their own room. It's an ensuite room. We get them settled in, and then I explain the structure of the weekend and show them where the church is and, how we pray the office. And it's good that if people are there to sort of, for Vespers, and that's the start of the weekend, and then we finish up with lunch on Sunday at 2 o'clock.
Very good. But I suppose one of the things is, when you talk about vocations and discernment and making space to, figure out what exactly that you want to do in life, I suppose the basic question I suppose someone would say, is, why would someone want to be a monk, in Ireland today? It's a case of, that's, you could have someone that could take a very simplistic view and say, sure, that's bygone, like that's no longer relevant. I suppose what is it that a monk offers to the church in Ireland today?
Well, I suppose, like all vocations, the call to come away and become a monk is a response to a call from God. It's for men who feel drawn to, a simple life of prayer and work lived in community. And the life of a contemplative religious, it's a lived response to a call from God, heard within the heart. It's a call to come apart and enter more fully into the search for God. So, we're seeking union with God through Christ. So it's a life marked by, intense prayer. It's cultivated in silence and solitude and the contemplation of God, while holding the needs of the world and the church in the heart and in the presence of our prayer. So, and it's lived in community, which offers the constant invitation for conversion of heart.
And in terms of, the community in Ireland, and in terms of the community in Roscrea, how many are there? How many monks are there? And
well, at the moment, we've 13 solemnly professed members in community in Roscrea.
Okay, and actually, who's your abbot at the moment?
We're blessed. We've the youngest man in the community is our abbot, but we're blessed. Abbot Richard Purcell is our abbot, but he's an extremely talented man, and we're actually blessed to have him as abbot. He's an inspirational leader, and a great source of guidance for the whole community, and indeed, I mean, for the order as well. He contributes greatly to the order.
Sometimes, I suppose, when we talk about vocations and vocation story and encouraging people to consider it and contemplate it, I suppose one of the things I often say to priests of my acquaintance is that sometimes we don't hear their story because because sometimes it's seen as being a lonely life, it's seen as being a strange life, but obviously it's not that way. Otherwise the men that are there wouldn't stay at it. So I suppose if we, in terms of sometimes I suppose the best way to encourage people to think about any vocation maybe is we ask those like yourself to come on the program maybe to tell us a small bit about their own story in terms of their own journey in religious life. I suppose if can you tell us what was it that prompted you to enter into that journey at Mount St. Joseph?
I suppose first, when I speak about my own vocation story, I the first thing I always warn people is that I probably have one of the most unexciting vocation stories, in that I didn't have any sort of road to Damascus type experience, or a lot of the time when you hear vocation stories, people often have an event in their life that was critical in their choice of religious life or whatever, or there was something missing in their life, and they turned to religious life and found fulfillment. Whereas with myself, it was really over a period of years, a slow, I might add, realization that this is what God was calling me to. I mean, as a young man, and I probably should say I only entered religious life when I was 40. I won't use the term late vocation, because I don't think there is such a thing as a late vocation, because I truly believe that people enter religious life when they're meant to. And, but as a young man, I would say that, I didn't feel called to religious life. Was only, and I didn't know about the monastic way of life, and I didn't know about the Cistercians. But when I was about 33, I think, I worked for a company in Dublin as a sales director for a packaging company, and I really loved the job. But depending on what time I got out of the office, would actually determine where I went to Mass that evening. And this particular evening, I went to Mass in the Pro Cathedral, and there was a leaflet lying on the bench in the pew advertising a young adults weekend at a Cistercian monastery. And I picked it up and read it and thought about it and prayed about it. I said, sure, I'll go along. And so I went along on the Friday, and it was a Friday in August, and it turned out that on the Saturday was the Solemnity of Our Lady. But I got to the monastery very late on the Friday evening, and the nun who greeted me in the guest house said, now the monks get up at 4 a.m. to pray, and you're very welcome to join them if you like, but don't feel you're obliged to. So I said, oh my God, what have I let myself in for, you know? But thank God I did get up, and I went down to the Abbey Church at 4 that morning, and I was just awestruck. And, you know, something changed in my heart there and then. And, you know, I remember thinking at the end of the office, sitting there in the Abbey Church in the dark, and, you know, the sanctuary light flickering, and the monks had chanted the office, and it was just, you know, I was just awestruck. And, you know, as I say, something ignited, a flame ignited in my heart. And I remember thinking there and then, you know, could I become a monk? But then shortly after, I sort of went, you know, no, snap out of that idea. You know, you're 33 years of age, you have a great career, and you know, monks were what, you know, for holy people. But you know, I kept feeling drawn back to the monastery, and I was going back for weekends. But so something else providential happened that weekend, in that I was standing at the guest house door, and a monk came along. And he sort of says, you know, is this your first time in the monastery? And I said, yeah. And he said, would you like to have a look around? And he brought me around. But it turned out that it was the abbot of the time, Father Lawrence Waltz, who's a wonderful man. And we struck up a relationship there and then. So every time when I visited the monastery after that, he'd always make it his business to come up and meet with me, and we'd go for a walk. So, you know, just over time, I was just absorbing the Cistercian values, you know, of humility, obedience, silence, solitude, and, you know, and I just grew, without actually really realizing it, I just grew more and more in love with the place, the way of life, you know, and it got to the stage when I'd be leaving on a Sunday evening, all I was thinking of was coming back, and I'd be in the office in work, and I'd be thinking, what would the monks be doing in Roscrea now? So, I mean, it just got stronger and stronger, and it up to the stage where I finally had to sort of, you know, respond to it. So, you know, after speaking with, you know, Father Lawrence at the time, and then Father Kevin Daly, who became abbot, it was decided that I'd do a live-in. So I did what called a live-in in 2005, August 2005. And a live-in is a sort of, you go and you spend 6 weeks in the community, and you live the life of a monk for 6 weeks. You do everything that a monk does, but you still wear your own clothes. And at the end of it, there's no obligation either ways of how to move forward. But it's really the sort of last step in the discernment process. So,
so it was an interesting journey, kind of almost like a kind of an accidental journey, you could say.
No, I don't think I'd say accidental at all, to be honest with you, because when I look back at it now, there were so many providential things that happened along the way that, you know, I truly believe in my heart that, you know, God had only one plan for me in his life, and that was to be a monk in Mount St. Joseph Abbey in Roscrea. It wasn't to be a monk in another monastery. It was to be a monk in Mount St. Joseph Abbey. And, you know, to realise I was probably slow in, you know, realizing how the call that I was experiencing. And then probably in some ways I probably fought it a little because, I was 30 odd years of age, I had a great career, I'd worked very hard to get where I was in my career. So, like when I started talking to friends and family about it, I got but you're giving up everything, and you've worked so hard to get where you are. So, there was that, but I wouldn't say accidental. No, when I look back, I think, every step of the way, I can pick out little markers that were key points on my journey to where I am today. So I'd say no, it's very, very providential. I believe in my heart and soul that, I am where God meant me to be, and I'm living the life that God chose for me.
Well, there's a lot. I suppose I can, to be able to say that. I suppose that you are where you feel you're meant to be. So, what we're saying, I suppose, on this week's program is there's an invitation for others to undertake that journey, and the sermon, the Come and See weekend, is the first weekend. Sorry, give us the dates again, there, Brother Malachy.
It runs from the 1st of July till the 3rd of July.
And if people are interested or they want to participate in the weekend, what do they have to do?
Well, they can either contact me by email or text me on my mobile. All the information is up on our website and our Facebook page. But basically, they can visit the website www.msjroscrea.ie, and they can contact me via the information contact page of the website, or my mobile number is 085 833 8503. So they can ring that. Now, as a contemplative monk, I don't carry it with me all the time, but there is a voicemail facility there, and generally, as I have on the message, if people text on it, I will get back to them as soon as I can.
Grand. Okay. Listen, Brother Malachy, thank you very much for coming on the program with us this week and introducing us to Cistercian life, and we'll remind people again of that upcoming weekend over the next couple of weeks. John?
That's great, Shane. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Malachy, for coming. As usual, we never have enough time in this program. I know when I spoke with Brother Malachy before we started the program, I said, listen, we'll probably have a chat for about half an hour, and Brother Malachy was saying, half an hour? We haven't touched on half the things we wanted to say. But Brother Malachy has very kindly invited us to join him at some other time when it's convenient for himself and ourselves, to join him in Roscrea at the monastery, maybe to chat a little bit more about their life, and also maybe to get a few more stories, some more vocational stories. So at this stage, we've got to go miles behind time. But there's a piece of music, Brother Malachy very kindly gave us a beautiful CD, the Monks of Roscrea, entitled Salve. And there's one piece of music we're going to play out. Will you introduce that piece of music for us, please?
Okay, well, every Cistercian monastery is dedicated to Our Lady, and the last prayer of the day is Compline, or night prayer. And the final prayer of night prayer is when we switch off all the lights in the Abbey Church and just turn on the spotlight on the statue of Our Lady, and then we sing the Salve Regina, which we'll play now.
God bless you all now.
God bless.
Bye.
Sacred Space on West Limerick 102.